Debbie with Kip's Corner. Welcome back. And if you're new, welcome to my channel. So I begun with my last video, a series of start to finish working on 2 Woodland journals simultaneously. For both journals, I'm using old Reader's Digest condensed book covers for the base or the cover of the journals. In the first one, I just covered it with a beautiful textured, I don't know if you can see that. There you go. I think you can maybe see that. It's a beautiful textured handmade paper. It's absolutely gorgeous. It has very much of a wood sort of feel to it for a woodland journal. I'm not done. I will do some work on the spine. There's going to be an owl on the front. So there's a lot of work yet to do to it, but that was the start. I gutted it and I gutted the book and I got the paper on the front as a start. Next one is going to be, this journal is going to be a mixed media cover. And I do those one of 2 different ways. Often I just start working on, I'll just paint the cover with a gesso, a black or a white gesso, several layers, of course, to get everything covered up. And I'll work directly onto the book face. In other instances, I work on a chipboard piece separately and create the artwork on the chipboard piece and then affix it to the book front. I'm not completely sure yet what I'm going to do. A lot will depend on when I decide exactly what the mixed media portion of it will look like, but it's going to be a build with some wood and some metal and some fun things going on. We'll probably do it on a chipboard piece and then affix, but in the meantime, while I sort of make that decision, I do know that this spine is cracked. It's cracked here. It's starting to crack down here. And so it needs some TLC. So I buy, and I just have black. It's all, everything that I put on the book right now is going to get covered. You can buy this in just about any color, and it's basically bookbinder's tape or book repair tape. It's not cheap, but it lasts forever. That's why I just have one color. I just have black, but it lasts forever. And so when I have a spine or a book that I'm working on, an old book that I'm working on, if I'm not making a new spine, and in this case, it's not bad enough that I need to make a new spine, I'm just going to use this. So I don't use this on every cover, but I am going to use it on this one. So I will go about there. And part of the reason why you want to try to get it as straight as you can is because sometimes a little bit of that edge shows through. So I'm just going to set that down and I'm just going to push on all the little nooks and crannies here. And that's not straight, but that's okay. We won't worry about it because I can make sure that I cover it up. The bottom line here is that I want to get this tape on those vulnerable spots of the spine where it was starting to crack so that it is protected. All right, I'm going to flip it over. And now I'm going to come in here. And you can see here's one of those pieces. So basically what I'm going to do is cover that right up. And I just hold it up a little bit and start from the top and just start pushing down. And you'll see all of the bumps and everything through this tape. It does show everything. So you're not going to hide anything with it necessarily. But I've got that on there and it's protected. And this stuff is wicked strong. I usually try to end it to where it hits the pieces hit somewhere in the middle, because again, all of that will be completely covered up. Let me, hold on. This pair of scissors has already got some glue on it, so I'm not worried about it. Let's get that little booger off of there. So I'm just gonna cut this off. And if my spine is bigger and my tape's not wide enough, you can put 2 pieces of tape on, get this situated here. And I just want to get that as fairly straight. There we go. Not straight. Let's try that again. There we go. Good enough. And my goal here really, as I said, is just to get some protection on that spine where I had those weak spots and where it was starting to crack. And just rub it down. And, of course, get your bone folder. And now I can get started on the next half of this, which I think is going to be, I do think I'm going to go ahead and work on the mixed media panel separately. And so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and measure this up and decide what size I want that panel to be. I don't want it to come all the way, you know, to this, you know, I can't make it too wide. And of course I can't make it too tall. So I will work on getting a piece of chipboard cut for that. And now I'm moving on. I've decided to create a panel, or a mixed media panel, that once it's done, I'll affix to the top of this. And so I'll put a fabric back behind this, cover the whole thing with a fabric. Don't know which one yet. I've got a couple. I'm going to actually do the panel first so I can decide which fabric I think I'll like. So I'm going to set that aside because I don't need it. What I did is I just cut a piece of, this is a pretty thick chipboard. I don't know what point it is, but it's thick, it's sturdy, it's strong stuff. So I cut a piece of chipboard that is just a little bit smaller all the way around than the cover, just the front cover panel, and this will just be a panel that'll add on top. And then I took a Dremel tool and I rounded the edges and I took some dips out of it. I don't know if you can see that or not. You probably could see it better from the side, but I just took some dips out of it just to make it not a perfect piece of chipboard. I want it to look a little more like a piece of wood when I'm done, maybe. I don't know, we'll see. Anyway, and I have this wood texture stencil from Tim Holtz that I'm going to use. It's a little bit short, but I'm going to add, I think, some crackle paste around the edges, so I'm okay with that. So, and of course it's not wide enough either, but I'm going to put the texture paste on one side, and then I'll try to match it up and put some more over here. I think my artwork will be more kind of coming from the left over, and so it's okay if that's not lined up perfectly. So I have some modeling paste and some texture paste that I've got here open. I'm going to start with the modeling paste and just scoop this up and start laying it down. I'm going to try to see if I can turn here a little bit. There we go. This is thick. I probably should have taped this down, but that's okay. Live dangerously, right? And go one more pass through to even it all up. There we go. That should work. Lift this up. Oh, that's pretty. I rinsed it off so that I could lay it back down again. I don't want to, let's see, let's get some of this. I don't want there to be a real hard edge. And so I'm going to scrape a little bit of this off here. If there is, I'm not too terribly worried about it because I will be able to blend it and hide it. Just going to run my finger over there. Get a little bit of these little crumbs off here. There we go. And let's see. I think what I want to do is come down right about like that. So now I've turned it upside down so it doesn't, so you can't tell that it's just the same repeating. It'll look a little bit different. So I think that works. Let me take a little bit off here. And go down one more time. Yeah, that worked. I'll be able to cover up a lot of what's going on right there in that middle spot, so I'm not worried about it. I am going to take probably a little bit of this off, some of these crumbs here, and clean this up right through here a little bit. I'm just using a fairly sharp, pointy spatula where I can get in here and dig just a little bit and take that off where the two sides met. Flatten that out just a little bit. There we go. I think that's going to be okay. Like I said, I will be able to cover a big portion of that up with the media that I add on top. Okay, now I want to try to do this without ruining what I've got going on here. There's a little piece stuck there. Okay. There we go. Flatten that out. Now what I want to do is I want to go back over the edge and add some crackle paste around the edge, and so that'll blend those two where that hard edge was. That'll blend that in. Let's put the modeling paste up and let's move to the crackle paste. And this is just, I'm just gonna come around here. Let's start with the corner and just crackle that up. You don't want it to be a straight line. I want it to be messy. I want it to be messy. With a clean edge. Sort of messy, sort of not. I'm gonna come up here just a little bit more. So I'm just playing. I don't really have a big plan here. I just want to crackle up the bottom, and I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to crackle up the top. And this will take a little while to dry, so I will I'll just walk away from it and let it sit. Okay, I like that. I think that gives me what I need. Take that back. I'm going to put a little bit more here. Okay. I think that gives it a nice effect, and then my mixed media will kind of come in here. So a lot of the background will actually be covered. That's okay. That absolutely works for me. That's part of the layering process. So after this dries and cracks and gets a nice and dry, and it's pretty thick, so it's going to take a bit of time to dry. I will come back over this with probably black gesso, and then I'll begin to create, start coloring and adding my layers and my metal pieces and wood pieces and things like that after that. So there you have it. We're slowly but surely. Takes a lot of patience. Got to do a layer, let it dry, do a layer, let it dry. And so that's what I'm doing now, is going to let it dry. So I will be back. I have got a dry chipboard piece now. It's got that wood texture on it. It's kind of goofed up right through here, which is where the two sides met, but that's okay. That's going to get covered. So I'm not worried about that at all. And I've got some nice cracking going on up there. So you can see that. And this is where it's just messed up just right here, but that's okay. It's gonna be just fine. All right, next step, I'm going to paint this with black gesso. That will give me a solid color base, and it will also help prep the board for anything else that I decide to do to it. A little extra effort to make sure that you get in all the little nooks and crannies. So I usually go over it, try to go over it in a couple different directions just so that I can get all those spots. And hopefully not have to redo it or do it again. I almost always see white spots when I'm done though. When it's wet, I think, oh, I got it all. And then, and then it dries and it's like, oh, no, I didn't. Okay, I've got my paint. It is called Golden Moss. I'm actually using it on the other journal that I'm making at the same time as well. I'm using it on the spine. So it's a beautiful green color with hints of gold. The metal, the metallique is a little gold. And so it is just absolutely gorgeous. And so I'm just going to use this here. I'm just going to get just a little on my brush, not much. And I think I'm just going to come in here and do some light brushing on it. It actually comes out here to be more of a gold than anything. So I'm not sure, now that I see that I like it. Yeah, see, now that I'm going it with a bit of a heavier hand, it is coming out more green. So that is, I do want the green to show through. I think first run, it was just the gold was kind of coming out just with that lighter dry brush. So I do like this better. So I'm just gonna keep going. Again, though, I'm not worried if I don't get solid coverage up here. If you can still see some of the black through, that's a good thing. I actually want that to a certain degree. I think once this dries, it'll be time for me to get out the pieces that are going to go on top of this and start playing with it and looking at arrangements and how I want to lay things down. I've got some wood and I've got some metal and just a bunch of different pieces that I think will be fun with this. So I'm going to hit this with the dryer again and I'll be right back. Okay, this is dry enough to start playing with. First thing is I want to, I don't know, what's the front or what's the back? The texture? I guess the texture is technically the back, the front. So what I want to do is just grab hold of some of the things that I've pulled out and just sort of lay them down on top. Oh, I've got some wood. Here, let's start with some wood. So don't be afraid to cut your chipboard. Okay, I like that a lot, and I like the tree sort of sitting on it. Once I decide what I'm gonna lay down, how I'm gonna lay it down, then I will mess with making the decision about what gets painted, what doesn't. Obviously the chipboard you want to paint. But for example, this little doodad, I would not. I would put that on last as sort of a last add-on piece if I end up using it. Oh, me oh my, oh me oh me oh me oh me oh my, oh, what am I gonna do? Let me see, if I pulled everything out that I thought was a possibility. Yeah, I have, pretty much. Okay, I really want to get a piece of wood on here. It's not, it is actually is unusual for me to sort of force something, but in this case, I really want to force this piece of wood. So I'm going to figure out a way to get it on there somehow. At least that's my plan. Let's see. I'm beginning to like it. Okay. I'm going to stop the video because the next thing I need to do, I'm not going to paint, I'm not going to touch this metal piece, and I'm not going to do anything to the wood piece. But these two chipboard pieces need to be painted, and I need to decide what color to paint them, and then I'm going to put wax on them and the background. Build up that background and get that ready to go, and then I'll come back and put these last few pieces on, and I may feel differently about some of these other pieces at that point as well. It's not unusual for me to totally change my mind. So let me get this much done and I will be back. It's done. The bottom line is that I redid it. So when I think when I left off, I had used metallic, metallique acrylic paint and mossy green on the back of this, on the background, and I wasn't happy with it. I didn't like the sparkle that it gave off. I wanted this to be more subdued, and so I repainted the whole thing. I had a green paint. It was a little lighter than I wanted, and so I just added a little black gesso to it. Repainted the whole thing, and then I went back over, I used Gilder's wax on the background, and it's called German silver. So it's not really gold and it's not really silver. It's kind of a cross between the two. Looks closer to a light gold. And then I used Gilder's wax around the edge a little bit and around the bottom pieces. And then on this piece, I had painted this a brown, this chipboard piece behind here, and then I had put copper wax on it, and I didn't like it either. So I used the same green. I painted it green, let it dry, and then I took a wet wipe and wiped some of it away so that you can still see, if you look like here, for example, you can kind of see some of that rust coming through. So it's ever so slight, subtle. And then I finished, then I went back and glued everything down. I did want this tree to be raised a little bit, and I wanted it over the piece of wood at the bottom. So I found a piece of wood at the bottom that was a little bit flatter, that with some clips on the sides and some good glue, I was able to get it flat anyway. Then I put two washers. I put a washer back here, up at the top and in the middle to give it a little bit of lift so that it creates this kind of cool, this shadow a little bit. And then I just added a few pieces down here at the bottom. This is an old brooch that was, it's a leaf. This is just a concho. Is that what they're called? I think. This is also a piece that I'd gotten, I think at Hobby Lobby, maybe in their clearance aisle. And it's, you add it to leather. It's got a little knob at the behind it, and you pop it onto leather. And then this was a charm that I just popped off the little loop up at the top, the sleeve. So I am happy with this now. The moral of the story and the message that I want to get across to you is that don't settle. If you're not happy with something, start over. It's okay. You are pleasing you when you're putting something together. Shouldn't be comparing yourself to anybody else or trying to please anybody else. I mean, if somebody's commissioned your work, maybe that's a little different. But otherwise, when you're creating, create for you. And if you don't like it, that's okay. You can start over. You can trash it. Be willing to do that. Be willing to walk away. So what I did was yesterday, I literally just walked away. I wasn't thrilled with where it was going, and I just stopped. And then I came back to it a little bit later and rethought what I was doing and what I wanted to do. And now I'm tickled pink with it. I'm actually really, really pleased. It's got some nice weight to it. It's all glued and the glue is dry. It's I used mostly E6000 on these pieces. I used a little bit of matte medium behind some of these bigger pieces just to give it some extra on the back, and E6000 also. So in some cases I used two, and I think this piece on the very top, since it was nice and flat, on that piece I used, what did I use? I used Glossy Accents. Glossy Accents is another really nice glue for gluing metal to metal. So that's that. That is done, and I'm happy with it. And so now it's time to put it on the cover and to finish the cover. Now I know this cover is actually really pretty as is. And some of you are going to watch this and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're covering it. And the reason is I was gifted, I don't even know how many, 50 or 60 Reader's Digest condensed books. And I do like using them as bases. It's easy for me. I don't mind creating my own when I need to, but I've got them. They're here. There's no reason for me not to use them. So I don't pay a whole lot of attention when I pull one out of the stack. I'm looking really to see what kind of condition the spine is in. This particular one had a crack in the spine. You can actually kind of see a little bit of where it was worn. I'm okay with that as it relates to putting this together. Okay, so I have a piece of, this is a fairly thin cotton. And what I've done is I've ironed on a piece of heat and bond to it. It's a lightweight heat and bond, and it's done. When I'm using a lighter weight fabric for the cover, I will do that. I add the heat and bond, but I'm also going to glue too. Isn't this pretty? It's such a pretty fabric. So what I'm going to do is just kind of make sure this is here in the center. I'm going to use Fabri-Tac, and the heat and bond creates a protective barrier. It will still bleed through, but it's not as bad. Okay, I'm just going to start on the spine, and I'm just going to give it a lot of glue. Not globby. I'm going to try to spread it around. After I've got the spine done, I move to one side or the other. It doesn't really matter which side. And basically, I'm just going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to, hopefully my glue will come out here. If you can hear the glue sizzle underneath, then your iron's too hot. You really don't want sizzling glue. I have just found that this is the simplest way, I think, to put fabric on the cover. Whether you're using chipboard, or I know some people use cereal boxes, it doesn't matter what you're using as your base for your cover. I do like the Fabri-Tac. I mean, you're adhering fabric. But Fabri-Tac does tend to, it can anyway, bleed, especially on a thinner fabric. And so if you've got a thinner fabric, just add some of that heat and bond to it. When you get to the corners, first thing you want to do is pinch in. Use your fingernail if you've got them. I've only got it on one because I broke one. Pinch in and then push down. And that gets that corner. There we go. Now what I want to do is I want to put my panel on the top. So I'm going to open this back up again flat, and I'm going to try to get it straight. And that would be good. But before I do that, I'm done with the iron, so I'm going to unplug it and set it aside here so I don't burn myself. Before I do that, what I want to do is put my hole in here for either an eyelet or a Tim Holtz knob. Either way, I want to get the hole in here now because this panel will be in the way when I go to do it. So let me put the glue on the lid on my glue. I'm going to turn this around and just use my mat here. Let's see. So the center is about right here. So let me make a little mark there. And you don't have to get it exactly in the center. And I'm actually going to use the small hole on this. I'm going to come in just a little bit. Okay, there we go. And then that, punching through fabric is always tricky, so you may have a little bit of fabric there. All right, my hole's done. I'm not overly concerned about putting the actual knob in yet. I just wanted to make sure the hole was there because it butts up against this and makes it almost impossible with this panel already there. So the hole's there, I'm good, but that will also help me make sure. Yeah, I got plenty of room. As a matter of fact, I'm going to come over just a little bit, about like that. All right. Yep. Okay. All right. I'm going to actually use a combination of E6000 and Fabri-Tac on this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use Fabri-Tac around the outer edge, but then I'm going to use E6000 in the middle. And so I've lifted that up. Watch, I won't get it. You will not get it in the same spot. The back of my piece is not pretty, but that's okay. It's getting glued down, so it doesn't matter. This is just, it's just chipboard, so it's basically paper to fabric. It does have some weight to it, so I want to make sure that I've got good, actually before I start gluing, let me get the E6000 out. I want to make sure that I've got a good amount of glue and that I'm not skimpy on it. But the same sense, just like before, I want to be careful not to go too close to the edge. Allow room for it to ooze to the edge, if you will. But if it does, it will come clean. I think that's good. And I'm going to go all the way around. And I'm going to kind of come in okay. Now I'm going to add E6000. And I just have a small tube of it. But I'm using a lot. And this will take some time to dry. It won't dry you know, in a matter of seconds. You have to be patient. What you want to do is you want to clip it. All right, let me set that down. Okay. Fingers crossed that I actually get this on here correctly. I'm eyeballing it. Remember, I made this edge wonky, crooked intentionally, so it's kind of hard to get it straight. Okay, and now I used to have a whole bunch more pieces of chipboard. I'm going to do, so I'm going to clamp this down. It's particularly the four corners and the center. You see what I'm doing here? And this is where it gets tricky. I'm just going to fold that like so. I'm going to need some more chipboard and clip, because I don't have clips that have a really, really long mouth. Okay. And I really need to get some here. I need another piece of chipboard. Hold on. Okay, I've got her all clipped up, and now it's just a waiting game. I will let that sit for quite a while, really, several hours before I come in. What I will do is periodically check it. Just come around the side and check to make sure that I'm touching the book all the way around, and that there's not any, and then I will periodically move these clips just to give them extra pressure in different spots, move them around a little, and then the chipboard is protecting the mixed media piece underneath. So yeah, I'll be back when she's dry. Stay tuned.